There's nothing better on a fall Friday night in Indiana than a high school football game. But football, which has been a part of Indiana high school sports since 1895, can produce hard hits, which in turn can lead to concussions. Football isn't the only sport. Soccer, hockey, baseball, even cheerleading have all seen an increase in the brain injury known as a concussion. Dr. Terry Horner, a concussion management expert for Methodist Sports Medicine, says the increased attention surrounding concussions is due to better observation of athletes and early detection and testing methods.
We are more aware of concussions now. We know that they need to be treated, so it seems like there's an epidemic. There's really not. I mean, we've been having concussions all along. Educating coaches and parents and trainers and everything to recognize a concussion now. They're doing that most of the time. But there are times when the player will not be honest with us, won't tell us that he's having symptoms.
A player, for example, may be reluctant to report symptoms, but they will start showing up in things like schoolwork, with falling grades and teachers noticing that the student athlete is not attentive during class. A concussion, simply put, is a head injury caused by acceleration and deceleration. Further, it's a brain injury, but not brain damage. However, it can lead to damage if it doesn't have time to heal. Experts say the large majority of concussions do not bring about any bleeding or swelling to the brain.
Recognition and treatment of concussion is where we were with the treatment of heart disease and cancer 50 years ago. The brain's a very complex organ, and we're just beginning to learn the things that we need to for that.
Classic concussion symptoms include headache, dizziness, confusion, lightheadedness, and nervousness. Others include a change in vision, nausea, slurred speech, neck pain, and ringing in the ears. These symptoms may not show up for several hours or even days after a concussion is sustained, which makes diagnosis difficult. In fact, most people are not even knocked out, but remain awake and talking normally. Concussions can occur without a direct hit, such as a strong whiplash, moving the brain around inside the head. A concussion can take 10 days to 2 weeks to overcome. And the best news is that most lead no persistent problems. The treatment for a concussion is nothing magical. It includes rest and careful observation. Again, most concussions have no long-term negative impact. Some do require expert ongoing treatment, and the majority of patients recover fully with no medical treatment at all. However, experts are needed to detect any long-term neural problems.
There are about 22 symptoms, and they can include mood changes, sleep changes, and cognitive changes. Trouble concentrating, trouble remembering things.
Starting in the fall of 2012, a new Indiana law requires players, parents, coaches, and other school leaders to be on the same page when it comes to detecting, diagnosing, and returning to play when a concussion has taken place. And most importantly, everyone has to sign these forms stating they understand the law before a player can ever take the field. Some fitness and wellness leaders are going above and beyond the law's high school requirement and getting all of their students in K through 12 involved in the new requirements.
At least it's a start, addressing all those issues, and that's a good start, but we need to do more so that parents are empowered in terms of how to take care of their children, and they're educated how to take care of their children, as well as the schools, their coaches and their personnel.
Once a coach, athletic trainer, or player believes that a concussion has occurred, there are important steps to follow, such as notifying the parents of the student athlete, telling them to seek medical attention for the athlete from someone who is certified to diagnose brain injuries. A baseline concussion test may be recommended. That healthcare professional must then sign the proper forms, allowing the athlete to return to play. The focus of the new law is, of course, accountability on the part of everyone involved.
The biggest thing the law does is make awareness and accountability on the part of the athlete and the parent, because the law says that each year before you can practice or play, you and your parent have to review the information that have been developed by the Department of Education in the state. And then you have to sign that you have read it, you understand it, and you abide by it, and give that to the coach before you can begin to practice. So I think the awareness is there. There's no way to police it.
Most young athletes who sustain a concussion at practice or during a game or competition are getting almost immediate attention these days.
They need to be concerned, not overly concerned. I think they need to understand the signs and symptoms of a concussion.
Phil Levine, athletic director at Lebanon High School, has been a leading advocate for detecting and treating student athletes who become dazed following a hit to the head, neck, or back.
You know, the most important thing for you to do as a coach, if you see a sign or symptom, whether it's a concussion or any type of injury, is immediately take care of that with the student athlete, whether that means getting them to the athletic trainer, removing them from play, removing them from practice. You know, we have to understand that we want to be successful as a program in whatever sport we're dealing with, but not at the expense of our student athletes.
Levine says while the law can't protect players from getting a concussion, it requires schools to get the necessary information to coaches, players, and parents about the risk factors involved in athletics and about what's necessary to treat those who do sustain a head injury. He adds that there's no concussion-proof helmet on the market and that there likely never will be.
The technology and the things they're doing with the helmets are fantastic now. You know, whether it's Rydell, Zenith, Shutt, it doesn't matter the company. They're all working hard to provide the safest helmet for a student athlete. But they will tell you too, those companies, that none of the helmets can prevent a concussion from happening. So again, it goes back to educating our coaches. What are we doing in drills on the football field during practice? What are we doing in games? And then should it occur, we need to be able to recognize that that hit or that head-to-head hit or that head-to-shoulder hit may have caused some sort of concussion.
The new Indiana Code 20-34-7 requires school corporations to disseminate information and have an acknowledgement form signed by student athletes and parents of a student athlete regarding the nature and risk of concussion and head injury.
The law specifically requires that a student must be signed off by a health professional who has been trained in head trauma and concussions before they can return to activity. And so it tries to push children to be seen, their parents take them to be seen by experts, and then it controls when the child comes back into play.
Experts say they would like to see the new law go even further, recommending that each school provide an athletic trainer program so that they can create guidelines for dealing with concussions. It's up to everyone involved in a particular sport to keep their heads up when it comes to reporting the symptoms of a concussion.
Oh,